Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. As per the usual, I am Cable S. Cable. Greeting and salutations, and welcome back. As you are tuned into part 2 of our Magic the Gathering unboxing of Bloombyrrow. We've gotten through a good portion of the stuff. We still got 6 packs to go, and we didn't get to finish up the last pack. So, without further ado, if you're enjoying the video, please give it a like, and if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's finish off that last pack. So, next up, we have Otter Ball Antics, 2-drop, sorcery, 1 colorless, 1 blue. Create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with Prowess. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, a creature with Prowess gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Flashback. 4, 3 colorless, 1 blue. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. So they brought back flashback. So flashback and threshold. 2 of the original mechanics. We come to the rare of the deck. For the Common God. 3-drop, double X, and a green. Sorcery, create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn. If you gain 1 life for each token you control. So why would they give it a double X? X creature twice? Oh, well, that just will make token decks OP as hell. Second to last card, we have another full art land. And then we have a hollow Heartfire Hero. We already talked about him. Alrighty, on to the next one. First up, we have Crumb and Get It. 1-drop instant, 1 white. Gift of food. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, that creature also gains indestructible until end of turn. Next up, we have the Conduit Electricity. 5-drop, 4 colorless, 1 red, instant. Conduct Electricity, deals 6 damage to target creature and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature token. So straight up hits a creature and then takes a token out as well. Alrighty. Next up, we have the Dagger Frog Duo, 3-drop, 3/2 Rat Squirrel, 2 colorless, 1 red, oh no, 1 black. Death Touch. When Daggerfang Duo enters, you may mill 2 cards. You may put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, for those that are wondering what mill is. Next up, we have Sticky Tongues Sentinel. 3-drop, 3/3 Frog Warrior, 2 colorless, 1 green. Reach. When Sticky Tongue Sentinel enters, return up to 1 target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Alright, next up we have the Waterspout Warden. 3-drop, 3/2 Frog Soldier, 2 colorless, 1 blue. Whenever Waterspout Warden when Waterspout Warden attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, Waterspout Warden gains flying until end of turn. Next up we have Heaped Harvest. 3-drop, Artifact, food, 2 colorless, 1 green. When Heaped Harvest enters and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tap, then shuffle. 2 tap, sack the harvest, you gain 3 life. Okay. Next up we have a 3 Tree Mascot. 2 colorless, 2/1 shapeshifter artifact creature. Just 2 colorless. Changeling. They brought Changeling back. This card has every creature type. Pay 1, add 1 mana of any color. Activate only once each turn. Oh, they brought back Changeling. Interesting. Next up, we have Patchwork Banner. 3-drop artifact. 3 colorless. As Patchwork Banner enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control up to the chosen type get +1/+1. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. So creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Okay, just looking for some clarification. Next up, we have the Quake Tusk Boar. 5-drop, 5/5, 3 colorless, 2 red, Elemental Boar. Reach, trample, haste. Dear fucking God, that's a rough combination. The only thing he's missing is vigilance. Next up, we have Wear Down, 2-drop sorcery, 1 colorless, 1 green. Gift a card. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, then draw a card before its other effects. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Okay, so they get a card. Okay. We have the Coruscation Mage. 2-drop, 2/2, Otter Wizard. This is the token that we saw earlier. Offspring 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Offspring, for those that didn't stick around for part 1, Offspring is you may pay an additional 2 as this casts this spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token copy of it. Next up, the rare of the deck is the Lunar Convocation. 2-drop, enchantment, 1 black, 1 white. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain and lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. Pay 2, 1 colorless, 1 black. Pay 2 life, draw a card. Then we have a Full Art Mountain. Then we have the Intrepid Rabbit, Hollow, 2-drop. Oh, we already talked about him, actually. And then we have Squirrel Tokens. That's just a sign that this deck could be very broken when you're putting squirrels into the mix. Interesting. I just noticed the card that we talked about earlier, that Coruscation Mage and the Token Mage are essentially the same name of the card. One's powerful than the other one, and the other one has non-creature stuff, so interesting. Alright, let's continue on. On to the next one. First up, we have another full art card. Alright. Next up, we have the Bravekin Duo, 1-drop, 1/1 Rabbit Mouse, 1 white. 1 colorless, tap, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Next up, we have the Kindle Spark Duo, 3-drop, 1/3 Lizard Otter, 2 colorless, 1 red. Tap, Kindle Spark Duel deals 1 damage to target opponent. When you cast a non-creature spell, untap Kindle Spark. Kindle Spark Duo. Next up, we have a 5-drop, the Glide Dive Duo, 5-drop, 3/3, Bat Lizard, 4 colorless, 1 black, flying. When Glide Dive Duo enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Next up, we have Treetop Sentries, 4-drop. Sentries, yeah, 4-drop, 2/4, 3 colorless, 1 green. Squirrel Archers. Reach. Whenever Treetop Sentries enters, you may forage. If you do, draw a card. To forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. Next up, we have Mind Spiral, 5-drop, sorcery, 4 colorless, 1 blue. Gift a fish. Target player draws 3 cards. If the gift was promised, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. If a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove one from it instead. Okay, so those are probably stun counters, not flying counters that we saw earlier. Next up, we have the Mind Drill Assailant. We've already talked about it. Next up, we have the Nettle Guard. 2-drop, 3/1 Mouse Soldier, 1 colorless, 1 white. Valent. Whenever Nettle Guard becomes a target spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, it gets +0/+2 until end of turn. Pay 1, sack Nettle Guard, destroy target artifact or enchantment. This was Valent. Next up, we have the Stocking the Pantry, 1-drop enchantment, 1 green. Whenever you put a 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. Pay 2, remove a supply counter from Stocking the Pantry, draw the card. Next up, we have the Stormcatch Mentor, 2-drop, 1/1 Otter Wizard, 1 blue, 1 red. Haste, Prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Next up, we have the Harvestrite Host, 3-drop, 3/3, Rabbit Citizen, 2 colorless, 1 white. When Harvestrite Host or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then draw a card if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn. Next up, we have the Lupid Flower Village. Land, tap to add a charge counter. Tap, add a white. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. 1 colorless, 1 white. Tap, sack the village. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a bat, bird, mouse, or rabbit card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of the library in a random order. And the rare of the deck is the Sunspine Lynx, 4-drop, 5/4, Elemental Cat, 2 colorless, 2 red. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When Sunspire Lynx enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Players can't get life. Damage can't be... Oh, damn. So it comes in, and if you're running on basics, you get screwed horrifically. Damn. Next up, we have a Full Art Forest. And the last one's a holographic Finch formation, and we already talked about it. Wow, interesting setups and a whole bunch of stuff that just can nullify a whole bunch of type of decks. Next up, we have Crumb and Get It. We've already talked about it. Next up, we have the Kindle Spark Duo. We've already talked about it. We have the Dagger Fang Duo. We already talked about. Sky Tongue Sentry. We've already talked about. Water Spout Warden. We've already talked about. Bravekin Duo. We've already talked about. Cindering Cutthroat. 3-drop. 3/2. Lizard Assassin. 2 colorless. Black or red. Cindering Cutthroat enters with a 1/1 counter on it if an opponent loses life this turn. Lost life this turn. 1 colorless, 1 black or red. Cindering Cutthroat gains menace until end of turn. Can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So fear. Next up, we have the Moonstone Harbringer. 3-drop, 1/3 Bat Warrior, 2 colorless, 1 black, Flying Death Touch. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats you control get +1/+0 and gain Death Touch until end of turn. This ability triggers only once each turn. Next up, we have a 3-tree Scarab. The green version, apparently. 2 colorless. Oh, no. 2-drop, 2/3. 1 colorless, 1 green. Frog Druid. Whenever 3-tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Next up, we have Flame Cache Gecko. 2-drop, 2/2, Lizard Warlock, 1 colorless, 1 red. When Flame Crab Gecko enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, add black and green. Oh no, black and red mana. Pay 1 colorless, 1 red, discard a card, draw the card. Next up, we have the Tidecaller Mentor. 3-drop, 3/3, Rat Wizard, 1 colorless, blue and black. Menace, Threshold. When Tidecaller Mentor enters, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. The rare of the deck is the Salvation Swan. 4-drop, 3/3, Bird Cleric. 3 colorless, 1 white, flying and flash. Whenever Salvation Swan or another bird you control enters, exile up to 1 target creature you control without flying. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. Well, we got another full art holographic land. And then we have a holographic Seed Pod Squire, 4-drop, 3 colorless, 1 white or blue, 3/3 Bird Scout, flying. Whenever Seed Pod Squire attacks, target creature you control without flying gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And last one, we have a Thunder Trap Trainer, 2-drop. It's a 1/1 wizard, Otter Wizard. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The token's mana cost is 1 colorless and 1 blue. So that finishes off that one. We got 3 packs left to go. First up, we have the Intrepid Rabbit. We've already talked about it. Next up, we have the Frilled Spark Shooter. My apologies. 4-drop, 3/3 Lizard Archer, 3 colorless, 1 red. Menace Reach. Frilled Spark Shooter enters with a 1/1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. Next up, we have Bundle Flowers Share Pot, 2 colorless artifact. When Broom's Flower Share Pot enters, create a food token. Pay 5, sack the Share Pot. Destroy target non-land permanent. Activate only as a sorcery. Next up, we have the Thorn Plate Intimidator. We've already talked about him. Next up, we have the Baker's Bane Duo. We've already talked about him. We have the Cindering Cutthroat. We've already talked about him. Next up, we have Bark Form Harvester. 3-drop artifact creature shapeshifter. Changeling. This card is every creature type. Reach. Pay 2 colorless. Put target card from your graveyard in the bottom of your library. Next up, we have the Moonstone Howlbringer. We've already talked about him. Next up, we have the Mind Whisker. 3-drop, 3/2 Rat Wizard, 2 colorless, 1 blue. Rat Wizard. Beginning of your upkeep, Serval 1. Look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. Threshold: as long as 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, creatures your opponents control get -1, -0. Flame Catch Gecko, we've already talked about. Mouse Trapper, I'm not sure we talked about him yet, but 3 colorless. It's a 3 cost. 3/2 Mouse Soldier, 2 colorless, 1 white. Flash Valent. Whenever Mouse Trapper becomes a target spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, target creature is a controller. Tap target creature an opponent controls. Next up, we have the Potent of Calamity. X-drop, 1. Sorcery, X colorless plus 1 blue. Reveal the top X cards of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Put the rest into your graveyard. You may cast a spell from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. If you exiled 4 or more cards this way, then put the rest on the exiled cards into your hand. So reveal the top X cards of your library. Okay. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Okay, that's weird phrasing, but you may cast a spell from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. If you exiled 4 or more cards this way, put the rest of the exiled cards into your hand. That's probably going to need some more clarification. We got another plane, full art. We got another class, Blacksmith's Talent, 1-drop. Enchant class, 1 red. Whenever Blacksmith Talent enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword with. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and equip 2. Level 2, 2 colorless, 1 red. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. Level 3, 3 colorless, 1 red. During your turn, equipped creature you control has double strike and haste. Damn. And then we have our fish token. Alright, we got 2 packs left. First up, we have Banishing Light, 3-drop enchantment, 2 colorless, 1 white. When Banished Light enters, exile target non-land permanent and an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. The Frailed Spark Shooter we already talked about. Starlit Soothsayer we have not. 3-drop, 2/2, Bat Cleric, 2 colorless, 1 black, flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain or lost life this turn, surveil 1. Next up we have High Stride. 1 drop, 1 green, instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. Untap it. Next up we have Thrart Shuckler. 2 drop, Rat Rogue, 1/3, 1 colorless, 1 blue. Threshold, 1 colorless, 1 blue. Put a 1/1 counter on Thought Skulker and draw a card. Activate only if 7 or more cards in your library. Oh, yeah, we talked about him. Next up, we have Hidden Grotto. Land. Whenever Hidden Grotto enters, surveil 1. Tap, add a charge counter, pay 1. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Next up, Seed Spod Squire. We already talked about. Next up, we have Stormcatch Mentor. We've already talked about him. Next up, we have Harveststrite Host. We've already talked about. Next up, we have Loopflower Village. We've already talked about. Next up, we have the Seasoned Warding Guard. 1 drop, 1/2, 1 white, or 1 drop, 1/2, Rabbit Warrior, 1 white. When Seasoned Warren Guard attacks while you control a token, Seasoned Warren Guard gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And next up, we have the Jackdraw Savior. 3 drop, 3/1, Bird Cleric, 2 colorless, 1 white, flying. Whenever Jackdraw Savior or another creature you control with flying dies, return another target creature with less mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. Then we got another Full Art Mountain. We got a flashy High Stride. And we got a Treasure Token. On to the last pack. First up, we have Sky Skipper Duo. Doesn't sound familiar. It's a 5-drop, 3/3, Bird Frog. Whenever Sky Skipper Duo enters, exile up to 1 other target creature you control. Return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Next up, we have the Warden Elder, 2-drop, 2/2, Rabbit Cleric, 1 colorless, 1 white. Pay 3 colorless, 1 white. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Sazzaclap's Brew, we've already talked about. Nocturnal Hungerer, we've already talked about. Druid of the Spade, we've already talked about. Shore Up, we've already talked about. Pond Prophet, 2-drop, 1/1, Frog Advisor, 2 green, 2 blue. Frog Advisor, when Prophet enters, draw a card. Next up, we have... Actually, we're going to do Share Pot. We already talked about. Horror Dry Level, we talked about. Bamberguard Captain. We got as well Kingfisher. And we got a legendary creature as our rare. But we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you again for coming out to the channel. Until next time, this is Cobble saying have a good night, and we shall see you in the next one.